Oh, hello there. You caught me playing my PS3, as you can see. Well, you got a question. There are a lot of good games on the PS3. For instance, I'm playing one now. My friend recommended Mafia 2. I've been playing through it, and now we're at a part. Oh, look, Henry's in the park. Oh. Poor Henry. I'm gonna turn that off. But as I was saying, there was a lot of good games for the PS3, but there's probably a lot of games you probably didn't know about. Like, maybe the fact that there was superhero games that never saw the light of day, or there was cancellation, money budget problems. There was a lot of things that made games not happen, and these right here are the gems that I found that never quite saw the light of day. So that's what I brought here for you today, to see the top 8 games that were supposed to be on PS3, but never quite made it to their release date. And, well, let's get started. We're back with our true first entry, which is Avengers by THQ. A first-person game where the Avengers take on a Skrull invasion through various stages of maps, such as New York, a helicarrier, and the Skrull planet. The only playable characters mentioned in this gameplay are Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Thor, and Spider-Man. Truth behold, the game looks lackluster in comparison to Ultimate Alliance. I mean, would anyone really want to play a Marvel game like this? Eventually, the production broke down and the rights for the Avengers game eventually landed at Square Enix, so hopefully the game will have Hopefully the game will have a release date and at minimum 3 delays so it can be out by the time I'm 30. But either way, losing an Avengers game is a punch in the face, no matter how you put it. Our next game is also a superhero game. It's The Dark Knight, made by Pandemic and EA. Originally supposed to be a direct sequel to the Batman Begins game, it was also supposed to be one of the first games to be run through a PS3 engine, and was rumored to run at a 5 FPS on their first attempt. 5 FPS. That's like the speed of a flip phone from 2003. When all was said and done, Pandemic was dead, and 101 million was sunk into this game, and not only did it sink with a new Batman game, the thoughts of Pandemic making a new Destroy All Humans died as well. I mean, it's not that hard to make a Batman game. I mean, isn't that right, Batman? Well, at least we're left with a picture of what almost was. Well, anyway, we got other games to talk about, so let's move on to that. Wow, a pelvic thrust. That's very impressive at 5 frames per second. Ah yes, Sundown, another aborted Ubisoft project and another aborted Guillermo del Toro project. The game was abandoned in favor of 2 other projects. The 2 other projects weren't named, but truth behold, I can't even describe the game I'm even telling you, because the footage itself just speaks for itself. This could have been Dead Space on cocaine? I don't know. It's some other drug that would bring this game to a highlight. I mean, I just want to show you the footage of this game. I'm going to let the artist himself speak about the brutality and the insanity of this game, of how it became. So just watch this, and please know I have no rights. Please don't sue.
Hi, I'm Peter Hentz, and I was one of the concept artists on Sundown. This project was Rare's second foray into the horror genre. It was set in a world where a biological parasite which infects and mutates living organisms had caused a catastrophic breakdown of society. The concept art team were tasked to create a host of monsters that would shock and repulse the player. Creatures from your worst nightmares. In terms of visual design, we took a lot of inspiration from John Carpenter's 1982 movie, The Thing. Body horror at its finest. There's something terrifying about seeing the human form warped into a hideous monstrosity. This sense of disgust was something we really wanted to key into in order to put the player on edge and instill a real sense of fear. Mother Nature also provided us with a great source of inspiration, and we drew reference from a whole host of weird and wonderful creatures, from larvae to deep-sea creatures, studying their strange forms and textures. Players would find themselves traveling through deserted towns and homesteads. The idea was that you could move around during the day, searching for medical supplies, food and weaponry. Ultimately, you'd have to find a place that you could fortify and rig with traps, because when the sun went down, these infected creatures would descend in their droves looking for their next victims. Thematically, we were looking at the source of the infection being linked to a parasite that contaminated the water supply. When it comes into contact with a host, it bonds with them and mutates their DNA, forcing physical mutation. The victim's transformation would happen in stages, beginning with slight variations to the human form and progressively warping the host into a twisted, visceral bundle of flesh and claw. The host would take on the characteristics of the parasite: bumpy, translucent skin, tentacles, and sharp, bony protrusions. Like zombies from George Romero's movies, the infected were driven by the mindless, singular purpose to consume and could never be bargained with. One of my favorite monster designs was Fingerbelly. This poor guy has really had a bad time of it. Most of his body's been given over to this horrendous mouth. The mutations between bloaters would vary dramatically. Some would split in half to expose a large creature. Some appeared to look like pregnant women, which would crawl after you and spew forth a horrible mass of limb and tentacle. We also explored the idea of having infected children as an enemy. We called them crawlers. They were small, elusive, and fast, scaling any surface with ease, allowing them to ambush when you least expected it. Infected children were never as horribly disfigured as their adult counterparts, as their sole purpose was to transfer the infection. It created an uncomfortable dilemma for the player, as you naturally wouldn't want to harm a child. Since the player was to carry guns and improvised melee weapons, it seemed the players might take a more harsh and final approach to dealing with them. Ultimately, this didn't sit well with the team, and we decided to drop the idea of having infected kids. Sundown was a great project to work on, and even though it didn't continue, it was given a chance to shine in one of our studio's creative jams. A new team within Rare picked up the idea and created a prototype over a few weeks that showcased some of the survival features.
I can honestly say that this game wouldn't only be crazy, it would be the great survival horror that we begged for on the PlayStation 3, unlike Dead Space. Dead Space is a good survival horror, but this one is the one that just gets me, that I wish I could have had some view of what it would have looked like. And it was a great survival horror, but everyone got... I don't know what to say. It goes the way of the mutated dodo bird that looks like a donut ate a giant cactus. Let's just move on to the next game. This one's... I can't talk about this one without crying. Ah yes, Superman Man of Steel, otherwise known as Project Blue Steel. Made by Factor 5, a game studio who constantly had games that were shut down because of, well, lack of money, lack of interest, lacking. First off, not much footage to show here, but you're seeing the idea of an open-world Superman game that hasn't been explored since 2006's Superman Returns for the PS2, which I have to say is probably one of the best Superman games of all time. And to be honest, is there much competition? I mean, you got Superman 64 and Rise of Apocalypse, and I mean, I guess you could say Superman in Injustice can be considered a Superman game, but it's really not a Superman game. Superman Returns came out with so much stuff. A great Mountain Dew flavor, and a great video game, a subpar movie, but you get the context that I'm speaking from. The Superman design was sleek, and the Doomsday design was unique in its own way, showing that a human skull was his main face. And the design for Lex Luthor, Superman is interesting to look at, but in the end, we'll never really know what this truly was because, well, no one truly talked about it, and in the end, it's just like an oil tanker exploding around Doomsday. Our fifth entry in this top 8 is truly one that anyone can look at and say, this honestly could have been a great idea. Tremors, if you didn't know, is a movie franchise about a giant subsequent, live in the ground worms that eat people and have rose up after a mine accident shook them from their habitat. Eventually the game was made by Rock Solid Studios and then faded away. Originally the game was made to be for PS2, Xbox, and the GameCube, but everyone just went, what's Tremors? And then everyone went, oh right. No one knows what Tremors is. Cancelled. So basically, a YouTuber that I was in contact with about 3 years ago decided to take the idea into his own hands and develop the Tremors game himself. That is not a joke. One person working on an entire game that is supposed to be out for PS3, PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Yes, he had the idea to make this game something great, until he decided to reveal what he had to the world and ultimately screwed himself. But what you see here is what he had ready for the game, and to be honest, just a soft render for this game, I was terrified out of my mind. Can you imagine walking in the desert at night and then you hear a beep 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 and something just comes out of the ground and grabs you, sucks you down, and kills you? I can only imagine that this game would have been amazing. And honestly, if one of these things came at me, I'd probably crap myself. Ah yes, Superman Man of Steel, otherwise known as Project Blue Steel. Made by Factor 5, a game studio who constantly had games that were shut down because of, well, lack of money, lack of interest, lacking. First off, not much footage to show here, but you're seeing the idea of an open-world Superman game that hasn't been explored since 2006's Superman Returns for the PS2, which I have to say is probably one of the best Superman games of all time. And to be honest, is there much competition? I mean, you got Superman 64 and Rise of Apocalypse, and I mean, I guess you could say Superman in Injustice can be considered a Superman game, but it's really not a Superman game. Superman Returns came out with so much stuff. A great Mountain Dew flavor, and a great video game, a subpar movie, but you get the context that I'm speaking from. The Superman design was sleek, and the Doomsday design was unique in its own way, showing that a human skull was his main face. And the design for Lex Luthor, Superman is interesting to look at, but in the end, we'll never really know what this truly was because, well, no one truly talked about it, and in the end, it's just like an oil tanker exploding around Doomsday. Ah yes, This Is Vegas, otherwise known as Midway's Silent Songbird. Also known as the death of Midway Games. If you've never heard of This Is Vegas, don't be surprised, don't be shocked. This is a game that Warner Bros. And Midway sucked so much money into to bring Midway back to the realm of reality. If you didn't know, Midway Games was already going under because it had no good games for a while, and everything was kind of subpar. You had Wheelman and others, and then finally they came up with an idea for a game called This Is Vegas, where not only could you do the things that you do in GTA, you could do the things that you do in GTA. Yes, the game's main tag was that you could gamble, which you can do in GTA, and Red Dead Redemption. You could race, which you can do in GTA, and you can fight, you can do that in GTA, and you could party. I guess you could do that in GTA. or at home alone on Valentine's Day, whatever. Whatever floats your boat. But basically what This Is Vegas' main tagline was there was a story and it was set in one solid place. Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's interesting because GTA takes place in a large amount of California. Red Dead Redemption takes a large amount of Texas and Mexico. And this is garbage. I guess I had to say it. The money ran out for this game and, well, $40 to $50 million worth. And that's all you could do, to be honest. Midway went bankrupt, Warner Brothers shut down the game, and like your ankle in a gopher hole, it went down with a twist. The game was done, by the way. Just wasn't released. As you can see, the trailer seems finished. So where is the game? We'll never know. Warner Brothers owns the rights to it, and it'll probably never come out. They're busy working on an Arkham 4. We can only hope. They're probably not. Ah, yes, our second to last entry on this thing, Dirty Harry. Ah, Dirty Harry. Made one of those games that we definitely needed. And what killed me was this game was one of the ones that I truly looked forward to. And what killed it? What killed this amazing game with Clint Eastwood voicing Dirty Harry? Dirty Harry going around and stopping people in his dirty way that he dirtily does? Greediness. Greediness killed this game. That's not a joke. Greediness killed this game. And why do you say that it's greedy? Well, let me tell you. This game was one of the few that was going through the first engine of PS3, much like the Dark Knight that we talked about earlier. When they decided to put it through Xbox 360 and PS3, it was mainly going better through the Xbox 360 than the PS3. But someone came up with the idea of, I got an idea. Let's release it for the other systems that are dying out. Yes, that was the main pitch of this game. It was supposed to be one of those games that was exclusively for the new systems, but when it was starting to fail going through the engine for PS3 and Xbox 360, they said, why don't we put it through the other ones first while we work on this one? That was actually a thing. This game was actually supposed to come out for just Xbox 360 and the PS3. But they decided to release it for, and I'm not joking here when I say this list, the Game Boy Advance, the DS, the Wii, the PS2, and the Xbox. I wouldn't be surprised if there was even an announcement for it to be on what? Atari 2600, Sega 32X, and Tiger Electronic wristwatches. This game was truly one above, and this game was truly one above the rest, and definitely ahead of its time. Being an exclusive for the PS3, they had to wipe it out and replace it with other games. I'll let Dirty Harry himself explain to you how this game finally came to its end. You know, I saw you developing that game over there. And I bet you're wondering, did I bankrupt us 50 million or 6 million? Did I bankrupt us 50 million or 60 million? I gotta tell you, in myself, I've forgotten all this excitement. Well, do you feel lucky? Can you write a check, punk? Either way, large groups have worked to resurrect this game over the past couple years with no success. So there's probably no chance we'll ever see a Dirty Harry game in our lifetime. Sadly, we will miss this game, and I don't feel very lucky. Our final and most important entry in this game is Highlander, a game made by Eidos and Square Enix. The final entry this week, Highlander is a game with a trailer so sweet that it could have been one of the most breathtaking best PS3 games in my opinion. Now you gotta understand, I live in an era where I still love PS3 more than PS4 because I have so much more of a selection on PS3. All these games over here, all these PS3 games. Do you know how many I have? I have over 250 and climbing. And I have how many total PS4 games? What? Oh, I have like 20. Why? Because there's no selection for PS4. There's nothing out there where I go, wow, that's interesting. Where'd that come from? I mean, there are some PS4 games that I've picked up that have come out of the blue that I've enjoyed. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy most PS4 games. But when the PS3 came around, there was more selection. They were making games off of comic books and games off of old movies like Highlander. and Dirty Harry and hell, The Dark Knight. But when it came to this game, when I saw the trailer for this as a teenager, well, I wasn't a teenager, I was like 12, but we'll count that as a teenager. I was excited for it because I'd seen the Highlander movie. I liked the Highlander movie. This game seemed like one that I would really buy a PS3 for. And by the time that 2010 rolled around, it got canceled, and I really felt like my hopes of having a good game like this were destroyed. I mean, sure, I have great games based off of movies like Wanted, Weapons of Fate, Terminator Salvation is bearable. But, I mean, come on, this sounded like a great idea, and why wouldn't you make this? The trailer looked done, the game footage looked cool through the pictures, even the box art was leaked a couple years ago. If you had all this ready, why wouldn't you release the game? The game trailer was so sweet and, well, took place across many eras. From the beginning of time in ancient China and basically ending up in modern-day New York, it seemed like quite an adventure, and a game that sadly Square Enix cut off the head of, and this game unlikely will never be brought to the light of day. Which is why I'm starting a hashtag here, hashtag revive Highlander, because we know that there's a lot of things that Square Enix does that's questionable. I mean, we've been waiting for Kingdom Hearts since, well, Kingdom Hearts 2 ended at the time that this game's production ended, and we still don't have Kingdom Hearts 3. So is there a chance that Highlander could be revamped as a new engine PS4 game? Absolutely. Which is why I'm starting hashtag revive Highlander. Share the word, and maybe we'll get it out. Because you never truly know what Square Enix is up to. And someday I think we might have a Highlander game for our very own PS4 consoles. If you've enjoyed the episode this week, I want to thank you for tuning in. I'd like to thank Unseen64 for adding most of the footage that I've used and most of the pictures that I've used. I'd like to thank him for providing people with a chance to share their thoughts about canceled games, and it was really, really amazing, and I thank you, Unseen64. I love doing this top 8 video, and I'd like to thank you guys for watching and enjoying this. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope I can do more of these in the future. I am Nighthawk, guys, and I will see you guys next time with a brand new video.